Let's go ahead and start with questions today, please.
Well, Coach, what was your your first post game and follow up, and what's the weekend and today kind of been like for you in settling into this role?
Well, like I said, I've never been a head coach of an elementary school. You know what I'm saying? So this is a lot of new stuff I never thought about. I mean, everybody thinks being a head coach is easy, and then you do it and realize there's a lot more to it than you thought, as anything would be probably. But I don't know. Bottom line is, I just feel like I'm just so proud of the kids' willingness to participate and be a part, and the vibe that they're providing, and it makes it easy for all us coaches to go out and do our job and have fun, stuff like that, and continue to just devote all our time and effort into what we can do to help them win a game, because it's all about them. So that part's been fun, and just, the media stuff and things like that, it's definitely different for me, because typically a lot of places I've been, the coordinators don't really do much of this type stuff. It's usually just falls on the head coach. So this is obviously new, but not other than that, it's really not that much different. Other than game day's a little different on the sidelines. I got special teams guys yelling at me if we want timeout or not, and I'm like trying to find the next play. It's kind of different. So, but no, it's been good, man. Just the common denominator for me on all of it's just been just the players and enjoying them and having fun, and we could have had 10 guys hop in a red shirt, and I don't feel like that's going to occur as of now, and I think it's a positive sign that these guys are kind of galvanized a little bit, and it's encouraging. So
there's risk and reward to what you did on Saturday with some of the schemes offensively. One of the risks is when you ask so many people to touch the ball and throw the ball, turnovers. When you looked at that number and saw you didn't turn the ball over at all, and this offense has been good about that with the exception of one quarter period, how much is that encouraging?
Well, we thought they were good plays on Monday, and we thought they were good on Tuesday, so we just read them off a sheet of paper and call them. You know what I mean? I don't think you can coach and try to have an answer for every little minor detail when there's 22 moving parts out on the field. Make sure when you're doing something special or different, the guy that's got the ball in his hands is explosive and can make things happen when it breaks down, So if you got to know me a little bit, you'd find out I'm not necessarily a color by number guy. I'm more of a just kind of painted guy. So that's kind of where some of the stuff comes from.
Does it help? I mean, I know it does. Sam has been a quarterback and understands ball security and decision making.
Yeah, I recruited Sam out of high school, and he was with me at TCU as a QB. And then he went to Cal and he started until he got injured. He would probably started 8 or 10 games there if he hadn't got injured. But when you say Wildcat, it's really not correct. He's not a Wildcat guy. He's a quarterback playing receiver. So that's a great pet to have, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So when he's on the field, I would say that you'd be a little bit apprehensive about certain things defensively, which could clear the picture at times and stuff like that. But and it's one more thing they have to defend and prepare for. So it could help with everything else and everybody else, So as much stuff as you can have them have to process and not really change what you do up front or at the skill positions, and you just got a different guy taking the snap, and I'm all for it,
The stuff y'all did with Sam last week, I'm sure some of it was in before. Was all or a lot of that stuff y'all worked on before?
No, we kind of dialed up some of that stuff. We kind of had some of that. We just, in the games that we were in prior to, we started slow, and you never really felt like you could kind of get to it, because you're just trying to figure out how to move the ball at all. But we didn't have all of it, but we had some of that stuff. And it's good to take plays that you had the week before that you didn't call, because it's banked reps and your guys know it and you can call it, and you don't necessarily have to rep it 100 times during the week. So any of those carryover plays that you don't call, you do. So, like call sheet wise, I try to have a 65% overage. So, if say we got 100 plays in, we call 65 of them. That's the mark. If you don't hit 65% of your usage, then you probably should reduce your call sheet the next week. So that's kind of what we do.
You mentioned special teams, hearing things. What was it like on the fourth down call? And what's it like being in that role where you're making those decisions?
To be honest with you, for a second I forgot I was making that decision. So I was like, oh, that's on me, because normally you're like, let's go for it. What are we, soft? Let's go. And then I went, oh, that's on me. So that was a little bit different because, when you look at it and you're trying to, surmise what you're going to do, the next play or the next drive, some of that stuff, I got to do a better job of, paying attention to the entire game, I think. So that was new for me. That was a tough one at times, because I've never done that. So, but it was, to be honest. But we got a lot of good staff members that make a lot of good recommendations in those situations, and it kind of helps.
Can you talk, because you were coordinators together at KU with Clint.
Yeah.
I've known him a long time too. Can you talk about what Clint Bowen's going to bring in that role?
Man, he's just he's such a great guy, and I think he's a player's coach. I think the players feel like he cares, and I think the players feel like he's in it to get the best out of them, and he's just such a good person and highly intelligent guy. And I think he was the coordinator at Kansas for 12 years, so he's got a lot of experience. I think his MO is going to be carry over what we've done and, plug in things that we feel like fit based on the opponent and just mesh with the staff from here moving forward. But, I don't know. For me, I'm comfortable. I'm so comfortable with him because I know him. And he's a back-end guy, a coverage, secondary safety, corners guy, and that makes me feel good too. So he just kind of fit the profile for what we were kind of looking for immediately. And I think that he'll have that room. They'll all be galvanized here pretty soon. I feel like he's going to do a good job.
On the back end in particular, that's one area where you guys struggled on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell you the actual statistics of it, but I think a lot of people struggle with things on the back end because there's so much schematics now back there because people try to disguise everything. What you see pre is not what happens 75% of the time. So I think at times those guys get tangled up a little bit with the schemes and stuff. So not to say that, we weren't doing a good job in that area before, but I just feel good about him handling it because for me, like when he was on my side of the ball, all right, identifying coverages, hey, is that cover two? No, it's actually bracket, and for an offensive guy, you think it's one thing, but it's really not, and he could explain it. How do you attack it? The switch route here, whatever. He's a great source of information on coverages and stuff like that. So just really got to know him and just tons of knowledge and just a good guy. And he'll get all those guys on the same page and get the Pistons firing in the right direction.
Because he was, Eric, because he was on your side of the ball, though, up until this
I taught
week,
him how to draw plays the other way because defense, they draw it upside down to me. So now he's struggling to draw it the other way where the defense is facing the other way. So
how much involvement has he had with the defense? Is it kind of a
not much. He was running the back end of the scout team stuff, and he was doing a lot of the. He was the advanced scout for the opponent. So by the time we get to Sunday, he's already a week ahead, and he could give us the two deep, who's the game wrecker, here's their base coverage, here's their base blitz, here's their whatever. He was that guy, and he transferred all his knowledge to our language, what we ID coverages and fronts to, real easy. And man, he's a valuable resource for us, and we're going to miss him on our side, but he's got more important things to do now.
How neat a dynamic is it with him and his son, just from your perspective, seeing them be together?
As a dad, that'd be super cool, right? To be at a P4 school with your son and he's a quarterback. Yeah, so I just could only imagine. Now, it probably gets uncomfortable at times because we're in there. Damn it, that was horrible read, and stuff. And he's sitting in there, so there's a little bit of like, you kind of look over and goes, he's going to get mad at me for saying his son's garbage. But no, he's a coach, been around his whole life. His son's been around his whole life. They all get it. But it was kind of cool. It'd be really cool for any of us to think about your son on the same team you're coaching on. That'd be kind of neat because that'll carry with you the rest of your life,
I'm guessing he had the advance on Arizona before moving over. Doug, you've been around this league, and I think of a 3-3-5. I think of John Haycock's Iowa State scheme. This is a 3-3-5, but it's a different strain, isn't it?
It's a little different because they're in a lot more four down out of the three safety look, and their run fit players have come from different locations. And then you get into this business where it's just UFO, like there's no one with their hand down type stuff. So they do a good job of obviously creating some anxiety as to who's coming and who's not. And they do a good job of fitting gaps when people are lined up all over the place, because sometimes you can get out of your gap or get two guys in the same gap. They do a pretty good job of keeping everybody gap sound and those type of things. With all the stuff they do a lot of stuff back there,
There aren't a ton of true freshmen playing. What stood out about Royal?
Man, Roll's just a guy, he's super hungry for information and studying. He's always up there with David Glidden. I mean, every day he's the one guy that's up there more than anybody, asking questions, watching tape, taking notes, getting out his iPad, watching film. I mean, and that kid does exactly what you tell him to do. For a true freshman, he's unbelievable. And wherever you want him to be, he'll be there, and he'll do it correctly, and he'll do it full speed. I think he comes from a military family, and he's originally from Cincinnati. I know at some point they moved to San Antonio, but just a great kid for a quarterback to know that kid's going to be in the right spot no matter what, it's a big comfort zone for you when he's in the game. And he's 18 years old. So.
Was there a point in the spring or something there you're like, hey, this kid's probably going to factor into what we're doing this fall?
Not really. I think he kind of earned it through camp more so than spring. Because in the spring, I think he was just trying to figure out how to survive, because it is a lot different. In high school, you can be the man, show up and have a bad day and still be the man. In college, you can have a bad day and you get beat out. So you got to show up every day with your stuff dialed and ready to roll. And it took him a minute to kind of figure that out. And just a great kid. And he's going to have a great career in college, and he's going to make a lot of plays. And he's just a comfort for those QBs, because they know, like, you're going through a read and you go 1, 2, and he's supposed to be a certain spot. He's going to be right there. He's going to do it right, and he's going to ID man zone and make his adjustments. It's just phenomenal, like, mentally, for a young kid, way ahead of it.
You mentioned earlier about a lot of guys sticking around the redshirt, they can make their decisions to be made. We asked you this earlier. Are those conversations that you have with players, or do they come to you now that the 4 games are up, now that the 30-day window's in play?
Yeah, I mean, they talk to their position coaches or whoever recruit them, then I may visit with them a little bit. And, hey, coach, what about this? What do you think? There's just that conversation. And I'm not necessarily trying to sit there and beg them to stay. I want them to want to be here too, but I just try to be factual and give them the information I think would help lead them to the smartest decision. Not just make it about, I want you to stay just for me, because it's about them too. So if I think it makes sense, I'm not going to necessarily try to bend it or shape it a way that'll make them stay, because I want them to stay. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of information I can offer that make them understand it's probably my benefit to stay. You know what I mean? And then they make the decision. So.
Could you evaluate just where the offensive line is at this part of the season?
Yeah, pretty solid, kind of galvanized. We've had some injuries up there. We lost Markel with left tackle, actually, in a hotel walkthrough. I've never seen that. That was a new one. He broke his foot in a walkthrough in the hotel lobby. I didn't even know it. And all of a sudden, they came to me and said, but anyway, Grant, the right tackle, he's he's gotten so much better, and he is a massive individual. He's got a bright future ahead of him. Number 74, Segrin. Really like what he's doing. Nuku on the left edge. I just think we got a really solid unit. Just like anybody else, you got to keep them healthy and keep them out there and take care of them during the week. But just like everybody, no one has enough up front. Everyone's light up front this time of year. So you got to be careful about it. And we've lost a couple of guys, but they seem to be kind of coming together as a unit. I was fortunate at TCU for a couple of years. We had the same 5 linemen for 2 straight years, and no one ever got hurt, and it was unbelievable. And it was just really cool to watch how much better they got every week, And they knew they could trust one another, and they understood the little nuances of the communications that they made towards one another, and it was comfortable for them, which they'll just get better and better. It's a pretty good unit, I think, pretty solid unit.
With Grant in particular, you mentioned him. I mean, he's the guy that was tight end a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he was a walk-on tight end at Nebraska and just kind of grew into a guy. And then, talking to one of their assistants at Nebraska when he was in the portal, and they said we didn't particularly want to lose him. So, and we kind of first got him. He's super raw, super green. He's kind of developed into that with being thrown in the fire, because you learn faster when you're actually playing, and then you watch yourself do it. You can read about it, talk about it, practice it, and then you're actually doing it, and then you're seeing yourself doing it, and it expedites that process, And he's gotten a lot better pretty quickly. Played really well against Oregon, which there wasn't a whole lot of good stuff to talk about there, but he was one of them. The guys up front in that game, just looking back, they kind of held their own to some degree with those guys up at Oregon. So that unit's going to just get better every week.
Doug, Rob, and Gary said Grant in the weight room did his work with gusto. They said he just jumped in at
Yeah, I think he's all in, and I think he knows where his future is and what he could be doing in 3 years. So, and he's got the measurables. He's massive, So, are we good?
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Grab your sandwich. Well, Clint, start us off just with what this transition is going to be like. Obviously, you've been on the offensive side of the ball to this point, but you're obviously a defensive guy. So, what's it going to be like transitioning into this role?
It's a unique situation. Taking over somewhere where the players are embraced in a system, a scheme, they've had their coaches in line there. It does make it a little bit unique. But in doing this, I got to be me and do the things that I'm comfortable with. And with that, it really kind of just starts, no matter where you're at, there's a lot of ways to say this, but my philosophy as a coach, I think, will help me in this situation more than anything. And with that, and I've told our guys, no matter what a player does wrong, if you're a good coach, it's your fault. So if you're responsible for a defense or an individual position or anything, if a player makes a mistake and you don't embrace it that it's your fault as a coach, I don't know where that really leads. And for me, that carries over to this spot, that when we go out there and we do something, we have to understand that our job is to fix and correct mistakes. Like, it's not the player's fault. It's our fault. If we go out and ask a kid to do something that he hasn't had the experience level or the knowledge to learn, that's our fault. If we ask a player to go out there and do something that he's not physically developed enough to do, doesn't have enough experience, that's our fault. If we go out there and haven't put him in a situation, that's our fault. And I always base my coaching from that platform, that anything that happens on that field is my fault as a coach. So for me to go out there and get mad at a player for doing something wrong, it's just not where I go with things. Like, this is us together, and that philosophy and building that into our defenses has got me through a lot of years in terms of this is us together. We're going to figure it out together. We're going to do it together. So we're going to start with that premise, and we'll work from there. Mike Gundy recruited unbelievable players to this program. He built an unbelievable culture. I've been a lot of places, and coming here, I told Coach Glass and Coach Gundy, the first winter workout I watched, the first spring ball I watched, I went to him, I said, this is unbelievable. The things I've seen our guys do to help each other, to listen to coaches, to be respectful, everything, the most unbelievable culture I've ever seen. And so these kids will handle it fine, and this will be good.
How easy, Clint, is it to take this defense they've been in and my naked eye, simplify it some, make them be able to play faster and freer?
And that's always been a philosophy of mine is that that it really doesn't matter what I know or the assistant coaches know. All that matters is what the players know. Like, we'll go back today to day one tackling techniques. It's our Monday ritual for 20 years. Our tackling technique. And I'm not saying anything's wrong. You understand there's 8 million ways to ever do anything in the game of football. If you've been in this game long enough, I've given up big plays in every front and coverage known to mankind, right? I've been through there. I've missed tackles teaching it with the Australian roll tackle. I've missed tackles set on my feet. Everything has strengths and weaknesses, but I do have a firm belief in some base fundamentals that have to get executed. And tackling, we can draw any 11 things on the board. If you can't tackle someone, it doesn't work. If you can't cover someone, it doesn't work. So those things can never get lost in the mix, and you can never push your scheme past what your players are ready and developed and trained to do. You know, we always thought defensive football is I always think it's a process that kids have to go through. One, what do I do, coach? Where do I stand? What do I read? What do I do? Two, get enough reps so that the repetitions build muscle memory to where they don't even know how to react different. They see, react. And then third, when you got all that mastered, now you start going, all right, what are those guys on the other side of the ball doing? Oh, the tailback's a yard behind the QB. Oh, this split's a little tighter. That's when you start anticipating plays and being good. So we got to, and my approach is we got to go back to step one of the process. What do we do? Master the reactions, and then start figuring out what the opponent's doing. And we'll start from there, and we'll be as basic as we need to be.
Clint, what can you say about the resiliency of this defense and how it's going to be tested after the news of their head coach and their defensive coordinator in a 7-day span?
We'll find out. You know, I hate to say this because I've been on both sides of it, but in the game of football, the poem "The Indispensable Man" always sticks out with me. You know, you put your hand in that bucket of water, when you pull it out, the hole that's left, how much you're missed. That's kind of the game of football, whether you're a coach or a player. You know, and in reality, you know, we all want to think that these players love us, and they do. But in the end, it's human nature to go out and take care of your own business. And I believe we have guys who are competitive kids or tough kids. They're going to go out and they're going to play because they love Oklahoma State football. They love being here. It's been a great place for them. I don't really worry about that. Kids show up and play. It's in their nature. It's in what they've done their whole life. So I think they're going to look for us to give them a plan that they feel helps them get better, helps them accomplish their goals. They can see themselves improving. And if they do that, it's been my experience that players will buy into anything.
Your experience at Kansas, I think in 2014, you've been through something similar to this. Will that help you in making a midseason transition, not only you as a coach, but just seeing how the team reacts?
It will. That was the similarities to that situation. All right, it was after the third game of the season. Coach Weiss was let go. I became the interim head coach for the final 9 games of the season. And you learn a lot of things in that role. You know, a lot of times if things aren't handled correctly behind the scenes, you can end up being a big bear with no teeth as an interim because, you know, people kind of know that, hey, I'm dealing with this cat for 8 weeks, 9 weeks, whatever it is, you know, and he's out the door. I'm still going to be here. So what, you know, I mean, there's a lot of that's the reality of this dynamic. But I truly do believe that if you go out and you help players and they see that you're helping them get better, because they all want to be the best they can be. And if you can prove to them that you're capable of doing that, the kids will run through a wall for you because that's what they still want. They want to go out and represent themselves in this university well. So the players will be fine. They always are.
Coach Gundy's culture. There's also a pretty good degree of intelligence on that defensive side. I mean, guys like Parker, David, you know, Brian McCoy at linebacker, even the defensive front, those guys, Ivan and those guys. Will that make it easier, too, to do what you're going to try and do here, the intelligence on that side?
Yeah, we're going to – luckily, you know, the scheme that's in place here it's tried and tested. I mean, it came from a pretty good coaching tree of some guys that have put this scheme together. We'll be able to pull enough pieces out of that like when we go to practice today, the kids aren't going to hear a word that they've, you know, everything they hear today is going to be something they've heard and repped before. We may limit some things down. You know, you can make every call on defense as hard as you want to make it or as easy as you want to make it. You know, you can adjust every formation. You can adjust to the back. There's 8,000 things you can do to every call. We will probably limit some of that down and focus more on, instead of trying to, you know, be be more specific on what we're trying to do. But yeah, our kids, what they've learned, what they know, they've put their time in and learned a lot. So they're going to be fine that way.
If in 2017 somebody would have told you you're going to be at Oklahoma State as the defensive coordinator with Doug Meacham being the head coach, would you have thought that person was crazy? Or
Definitely.
so I guess getting to this point, just kind of how surreal has the last, I don't know, week or whatever it's been.
Well, you know, it's really kind of been me getting here was, in general, was really, you know, I appreciate Coach Gundy. Like, I've known Coach Gundy for I don't even know how long. Had some opportunities. We've talked about coming here before in the past on some different job situations between me and Mike. I think specifically in maybe 2011 or 12. He I think got kind of mad at me for a situation there for not coming, and what's ironic about it is everything he told me at that time was exactly right. Like, and it played out exactly like he said, and he told me at some point in time I gotta I can't remember exactly. We're basically break away from Kansas. Sometimes you gotta get away from your comfort zone and go do something to expand in this profession. And he was exactly right. I didn't listen, and then every time I saw Oklahoma State going to a bowl game, me and my wife watching TV, she's like, "Yeah, great choice." Like, you know, so I lived with that for about 10 years. You know, of watching Oklahoma State win 10 games and go to bowl games, and I was sitting home at Christmas. So, Coach was right on that. So. Yeah, to be here and then to come back around this time for Coach to give me the opportunity to come back in this time, I was really appreciative, and he looked out for me and helped me out, and so it worked out good. Now I didn't want this to be the scenario. I was hoping I'd come here and we'd work for Coach Gundy until we both gave this thing up, but this business kind of heads that way sometimes.
Doug was asked about this. What kind of feeling? And you had this in high school. You were the head coach for Banks at Lawrence High, but what's this been like? Being in the same organization at the college level with your son?
Yeah. I got out of coaching the COVID year when things just didn't seem right. Players opting out, refusing to play. We go play in the Myrtle Beach Bowl, and we got about 20 defensive kids who were willing to go because it was over Christmas. And I'm sitting there, I'm ignoring my kids, I'm ignoring my family, I'm not even seeing my kids play games, and I can't even get guys to go play in a bowl game. That was, and the mentality just rubbed me wrong at the time. And so at that time, I decided I'm going to go. My oldest son was going to be a senior, and Banks was going to be a freshman. And I was like, I'm going to go do this, And obviously, that's a kind of a career killer in terms of coaching. If you want to be at this level, once you go to coach high school football, you get kind of, in that tag of being a high school football coach. That's where Coach Gundy gave me a chance of coming back, but. I'm not sure if Banks is happy about it. He went to Tulsa initially, and I came here, and then the whole thing worked out that he came here. But I know for me, it's something I never dreamed would happen, and being able to just stand out. I catch myself standing out there sometimes, looking over and being like, "Holy cow, that's my son wearing an Oklahoma State uniform, throwing a football around." It's a kind of a surreal thing on a daily basis.
How close did you guys get? I guess Lawrence Lions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chesty Lions, maybe. What was it like? How close did you guys, that relationship, grow during those 4 years?
Well, I learned Banks got it better because my first son got it bad. I came home a few nights and my wife was like, "We need to talk." The way you're running the Lawrence High program is not working for our son, and we're going to fix this. So by the time I got to Banks, my wife had educated me on what it means to coach your son and how to treat him. So I think Banks got it a little bit better than my oldest one. That I kind of calmed down a little bit for him. But no, him being a QB in your program, 4 years with him. Like I said, I don't know how much he enjoyed having Dad yell at his friends and all that every day and hold his friends accountable. But for me, it was something that I'm thankful that I chose to do. May not have been greatest for my career, but for me, I would do it in a heartbeat over and over again, every opportunity.
After being at the college level so long, was there stuff that you learned going back down to the high school level about coaching, about relationships, about any of that?
Going back to the high school level honestly saved me because I was kind of in a college football is not for me. You go back to high school, you learn that kids play high school football because that's his best friend. That's his best friend. They care about each other. It was it brings you back to what football is truly about. you want to impact kids' lives. In high school, you still do. High school coaches are the most amazing humans. If anyone had any idea, coaching high school football is 10 times harder than any time being an interim head coach, defensive coordinator, Power 4 school. You want to go to guys who truly have to invest more than you would ever dream you have to invest. High school coaches. I mean, you're raising money to buy shoes. You're raising money to buy food. You're trying to get the equipment money raised. You're taking kids home. You're meeting with parents. I mean, it is 24 hours a day nonstop in high school football, and it's the greatest gig there is in terms of, I mean, to this day right now, most of my text messages come from my high school kids, and they're still asking for advice on this and that. Like it's a special job to be a high school football coach in terms of what you can do to impact kids. It brought me back down to really the core of my philosophy. I'm here to help those players. And if I gained anything from being high school to going back now, I've brought myself back to an attitude that this is about the players. This isn't about me. This is about helping those young men reach their goals and fulfill their dreams. And high school really brought me back to that because it opens your eyes that a lot of kids just play this game because it's a fun game to play. And they don't care about all this stuff. They just want to be with their buddies, have fun, run through the damn tunnel, see the cheerleaders and their fans and their families, and it's awesome. So it really rejuvenated me and brought me back to where what this game always meant.
A couple more. How important is Cam Smith to what y'all want to do in the secondary?
Well, you know, in this league in general, it has become such a motion, adjust, shift, movement, multiple. You know, it's become so multiple that the DBs and specifically the safeties, they really have to be alert on every play. I mean, there's a lot of, and it affects the backers and their run fits, but safety-wise, the degree of routes that we're seeing and the complexity of routes and the shifts and the motions, it's no more just make a call, line up, I got that guy. You know, you're always thinking one step ahead. So to have veteran guys and guys who have played a little bit and guys who have put it in there is really critical at that position. If you know, you're trying to get a few things done with them. So having guys who have played ball a lot is big.
I want to throw you back in your previous role because you, I'm sure, dumped the Arizona advance on Doug. This is not the 3-3-5 you see from Haycock at Iowa State. This is a different breed of cat, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You know, back when Jim Knowles was here, I was really interested in what Jim was doing here because obviously he was having a lot of success. And he, everyone knows he was doing some really, really creative and good things, and he's continued to do that. I would put what Arizona does is more in that Jim Knowles family than it is the John Haycock Iowa State family. From the front, the coverage, and the things they're doing over there, they're a lot more similar to what Jim does in terms of his 3-3, his 5 DB stack look, and his front that part's more Jim Knowles or what Arizona's doing.
What's
Last one.
What stands out about Arizona's offense and it? I'm just curious. Over the weekend, at what point did you sort of
Shift.
transition from you were scouting one side of the ball to the other? I'm sure that was kind of a weird weekend for you.
Yeah, honestly, I looked at Arizona for the first time last night at about 12:30 a.m. was the first time I put that one on. So I watched them for a couple hours last night. Haven't got back to them today. I am admittedly behind on them a little bit. I spent about 2 hours in the middle of the night last night looking at it for the first time. The QB impresses me. He's got some danger to him. Can throw the ball on the run, can move, does both, scrambles to throw, scrambles to run. They do a lot of things with their tight end, and they have some capable guys on the outside. So they're doing a nice job on offense. They got some creativity to them. They're just like we kind of always said, you're going to get a motion and a run. You're going to get a lot of different looks. So we'll zero in. A big part of what we've got to do defensively, I think, is make sure that we're handling shifts and motions well, and that's a big emphasis for us today.
For context, when do you in a normal weekend, like going forward, when would you normally be able to jump in that tape, and how much would you actually watch before you go to bed Sunday night?
Yeah, I can't. I'm not one of the people. As soon as the Saturday's game's over, I have to watch it. So I usually, you just do it. You can't enjoy your evening until you've kind of went and seen the game. I can't anyway. I know some people can. So as soon as the game's over, I like to knock out the Saturday game, then go enjoy my Saturday night a little bit, and then wake up Sunday morning as early as I can get out of bed based on how Saturday night went, and go to work on the next one.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, guys.